morning. I am going to try to present briefly the energy sector in Haiti in order for you to evaluate the eventual opportunities for investment. The energy sector, my presentation, let's see, okay, I have to figure this out. Here we go. The presentation will basically give you an idea of the state of the energy sector. We can see what's at stake. We could look at the reform that we are trying to initiate and look at the main challenges so you can understand why we have devised a certain strategy. Essentially, our energy sector is comprised of four main areas. The fuel and charcoal, which is a big challenge, and you will see why. Petroleum products, the electricity subsector, as well as what is increasingly important today, the renewable energy sector. And cross-cutting all of this are questions of efficiency and energy conservation. The key statistics that we need to look at to understand the challenges for the energy sector in Haiti are these three numbers. First of all, 72%, according to the Bureau of Mines and Energy, of national energy consumption is in the form of fuel wood, and that implies critical deforestation, as a lot of you know. 25% of the national energy consumed is in the form of petroleum products. Only about a quarter. However, this takes up about 50% of the foreign currency that we can use to purchase abroad. The third number is that 57% of national access to electricity. Now, this includes legal and illegal access. So that means that that's a big challenge, considering according to the electricity of Haiti, the public utility, 71% of urban households have access, and about half of that is not legal access, but it's still access. And 48% of rural households have access. Now, this is according to the electricity of Haiti, the public utility. Different people have different numbers. My numbers are actually somewhat lower than that, but I will take the best case scenario that was offered by the electricity of Haiti. So therefore you can see that Haiti, as was stated before by some of the presentators, is extremely energy poor. And therefore we need to improve, reform the entire energy sector in the country. And that will mean, obviously, opportunities for investment once we get the elements of legal structure, institutional structure in place. And this is extremely important. Why? Obviously, it's a question of human development. If we look at this graph that shows the electricity consumption when compared to human development as a function of electricity consumption, we can see that it's a very, very steep curve, meaning that very quickly the curve increases as the consumption of electricity increases for, obviously, a number of reasons. Also at stake is energy security for the country, meaning giving people access to the electricity they need for their economic needs, for economic development, as well as for their social needs, notably for things like education, for things like job creation, etc. Also at stake is the economy. The economics of it, the numbers are clearly, as was said by Mr. Wade just before me, this is a large market. For Haiti, when we look at the total numbers here, we get about $700 million, which is easily more than 1/4 of the national annual budget. So this is a large market, especially considering that it's not even a developed market yet. So at this stage, it's already close to 1/4 of the annual economy. Therefore, it is one of the most important sectors in the country. And we need to elicit the reform in order to structure this sector and make it more organized and better disposed to serve the population and to elicit economic development. So we need to get access to energy at the same time preserving the environment, which is obviously an important challenge in order to drive economic growth and social development. When we look at the challenges in order to understand in what direction to go for this development, we can see various things, including making energy available while preserving the environment. Recall that a large number of the energy consumed is consumed in the form of forest resources, of wood resources. Therefore, we need to change that paradigm in order to be able to make energy available while preserving the environment and while reducing the vulnerability of Haiti to natural catastrophes. Therefore, we need to look at clean energy alternatives to this biomass that's being used in the form of wood and charcoal. We need to better manage the fossil fuel sector, petroleum products, in the best interest of all the actors. What's best for the consumer is not necessarily best for the state. What's best for the state is not necessarily the best thing for the investors. So we need to find a best case scenario and constantly be managing this sector in order to create advantages for all. The electricity subsector is a large challenge. In particular, we need to make sure that it's sustainable. It needs to be sustainable in terms of the quality and the continuity of service. And for that to happen, it needs to be sustainable in commercial terms. Today, this is not the case. Therefore, we need to look at solutions, as you will see, in order to do that. Also, in order to arrive at more and better access to electricity, we need to look at innovative and effective solutions. By innovative solutions, I mean including the private sector, including options using clean energy solutions, solar, wind, hybrid solutions using fossil fuels and hydro, fossil fuels, and solar that will make this sector more sustainable. At the same time, give opportunities to private investors to work in the market, to be involved in this market. All this to reach energy security and energy autonomy for the country.